concept of understanding quote-unquote world. I've always found it to be an interesting subject to personally study, but I've also found it interesting to teach it. And the reactions that I give when teaching it are always priceless. Always priceless, because the context that we put our faith, the context that we put our conversation, the context that we put our conversation's conscience is in a secular or temporal sense. When hearing from the Bible how it explains things, when hearing from the Bible how certain figures talk about where their faith belongs and their stance in the context of it, it changes everything. And it changes everything for the better. It changes everything in a way that challenges what we knew and then allows us to get to something higher. You know, as it says in the Bible, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. The things that are within the Bible are higher than what we can firstly grasp. And so firstly grasping what we have, because that's all we have, and let that be what it will. There's no judgment against whatever. But there comes a point in time where our faith has to grow and where our faith has to develop an intelligence on its own, no longer relying on the life support of the quote-unquote world, which is now, we have reviewed it in the past, but our previous episode, seeing the religious world. The religious world, the religious lens, the religious context, the religious construct of what we should be casting for spirituality, or what we should be taking in our inward person for our confidence in the scriptures. And so when it comes to understanding world, I love getting into it, and I love showing its relation to the individual from within the Bible, so that the context for it can now move on from where it's at, so that the context for it can actually grow and be something better. Because when we hold our faith down to the temporal, we then, adopt in our spirit that same temporal spirit that we carry our faith by, and then we begin to demand certain things that just aren't there to be demanded of. But when we can hear from the Bible what the Bible's talking about, and when we can hear that individual saying, I am not of the world, when we can know what that means, then we can start to align our faith with what actually matters. And so again, just starting or picking up from where we last left off, we right back into the book of John. John 8:23. John chapter 8 and verse 23. John chapter 8 and verse 23 reads, And he saith unto them, Ye are from beneath, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. Again, you're from beneath, I am from above. You're of this world, I'm not of this world. Everything here spoken is almost allegorical. We know the definition of the world now. When we're reading this verse, we really don't have to think about some sort of extraterrestrial individual saying that I'm not from the planet Earth, I'm from another planet. That's not what the Bible is saying here at all. We know the context of the word world. And what we know is that when this individual is speaking, he's saying that I am not of the dimension of your faith. I am not of the dimension of your confidence. The spirit of my mind, does not resonate with the spirit of your mind. Why? Because the spirit of your mind is one place, fixed, but the spirit of my mind is above that. And so the main concern should be, if the world is what the world is, what is this above place? What is this above location that this individual is from? Because he's not saying he's from an extraterrestrial location. He's not saying he's a being from some sort of other millennium in some sort of other century at this point in time now appearing in Jerusalem in the form of a Jew. That's really not what this verse is saying. There is something to be taken into a, more better or higher context of this term above. So what does it mean that he's saying he is from above? What is this above that he is from? So turning to the book of Proverbs. Chapter 15, Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 24. Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 24. Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 24 reads, "The way of life is above to the wise, that he may depart from the hell beneath." So we have our answer. And pretty much point blank, spot on. What is above is the way of life. What is beneath is hell. Now, if this individual is saying, "I am not of the world, but I am from above," we can fairly conclude that the Bible is letting us know that the world is hell, and what is above the world is above and is the way of life. So when he's saying, "I am from above and I'm not of this world," it's not actually any sort of, mythological, superstitious, fanatical type deal. This is Bible language, and really can't know Bible language unless you dig into the context. Now, this individual is not of the world. He's not of the hell beneath. The hell beneath is the world, and the world has a specific philosophy that is contrary to what is above, and what is above is the way of life. What is the way of life? Because this individual being above and the way of life being above resonates with this way of life. But what is it? Remaining in Proverbs, chapter 10 and verse 17. Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 17. Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 17 reads, "He is in the way of life that keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproof erreth." Read that again. "He is in the way of life that keeps instruction." The conversation keeping instruction is in the way of life. But the one that is refusing instruction errs. So when this individual is saying, "I am from above," you are from below. He's saying, "I am from the way of instruction." And being in the way of instruction, he is saying that only method of being above is related to that only method of receiving instruction. To the individuals not willing to receive instruction, these are the individuals that dwell below, that are not from above, that are in the hell beneath, underneath what is above. So when this individual is saying, "I am from above," the I, it's not personal. This I is not personal. Because instruction, although we can receive and do instruction, ultimately comes down to mentality and mental. That I is not personal, that I is in reference to his mind. The world is not a physical world, natural world. Above is not a physical above, natural above. The I is not a physical I or a natural I. This is all philosophical, this is all allegorical. It's all related to how the structure of this individual's conversation relates to his human being. This individual is above, meaning his mind was above the quote-unquote world. Being above the world means being in a state where you are readily receiving instruction as above dictation. The world is regulated by religious and spiritual dictation. Conversation is dictated by handwritten religious precepts, policies, rites, rituals, theories, so on and so forth. But there is a manner in which exists something above that, and that is called the manner of instruction. That is the way of life, and the way of life is instruction. Now turning to the book of Isaiah 11:1 through 3. Because if the way of life is instruction, then this individual understands that there is something more to the living God's devotional character than what is being taught. And this is literally prophesied of him to fulfill. So turning to the book of Isaiah chapter 11, the book of Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 1 and 2. Isaiah chapter 11 verses 1 and 2 reads, Isaiah chapter 11 verses 1 and 2 reads, "And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord." So when this individual is saying that he is not of the world, he's really telling no lie, and he's being quite sincere about it. This individual's devotional character is structured around the wisdom and the understanding of the living God, which cannot be found within the religious world. This individual is structured around the counsel, around the might, and the fear of the living God, which is not within the religious world, but rather a theory, or a belief, or a policy handwritten by priest and elder, ancient and modern, is what is found within the quote-unquote world. When this individual is saying, "I am from above and not from beneath, you are of the world and I am not of the world," he's actually uttering a condemnation against their philosophical practices, against the standard of their spirituality. Instead of using the scriptures to understand what the scriptures mean, they're actually using the commandments and the traditions and doctrines of their own to understand what the scriptures mean. In this sense, they can't understand what he's saying. Neither can they understand what he's saying. He can understand what they're saying, but they have no idea what this individual is saying when he's speaking, because their language is still held to the quote-unquote hell beneath, or the quote-unquote world. They know nothing about the setting that is above. They know nothing about the instruction or the way of it that is above. And he's actually criticizing them, because being teachers of the scriptures, they should have by now solved the case of the relevancy for the scriptures. And it is to not remain in them, but it is to let the faith get out and to experience them. And so because of this, the condemnation is seen. And so you have an individual here that went about receiving instruction as opposed to a dictated experience. We have an individual here who, it is written, it is the spirit of his mind that was to be filled with the living God's mind. It was the spirit of his mind that was to know the living God's fear, the wisdom and the understanding associated with the living God's devotional character. This was his instruction, spiritually and as a human being. And so when he's now seeing these individuals, he can rightly state, although I'm pretty sure in real time it may not have been as cloudy as it is written in the book of John, but the Gospels are allegorical, and the language there has a context and has a figurative illustration pointing to a very real meaning. And the meaning is that this individual's mind did not belong in the construct of traditional religion, but belonged above, to where it could receive instruction and correction without constriction, without constraint, being constricted. So now, turning to the book of Proverbs, chapter 9, verses 9 and 10. Why was this individual caring so much for that fear of the living God? Proverbs 9, verses 9 and 10. Proverbs 9, verses 9 and 10 reads, "Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding." And so, okay. My man just wants understanding with the scriptures. So he can't be where understanding is not. Okay, then you go on then. You get that understanding, but that understanding only comes from within the scriptures, from meditating on them, or from taking instruction from them. This is how he built up his devotional character. And he increased his learning in this way. This is why they said, who is this man? He's not learned. Well, he received instruction. This individual existed, this minister existed within a realm of understanding. Within a realm of understanding, not physically. This individual was not in some other realm of understanding and then came into a human body. This individual is in a human body and is leaving his body to go somewhere else. That's not what the Bible is saying. This individual's mind existed within a realm of wisdom and of understanding and of counsel in relation to the living God's fear. This realm is not a literal location or however you want to think. This is a realm of thought. This is a stream of being. This is a place for the mind to go in when it enters into the scriptures. This individual's mind rested above in the place of instruction. And when it comes to this place of instruction, when it comes to this realm, there's a certain term for it. It is not always called above, but it is called heaven. And we know that the quote-unquote world is the earth, but above the world and the earth is heaven. So looking in the book of Psalm 115, quick verse, Psalm 115 verse 16, Psalm 115 and verse 16, it reads, "The heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's, but the earth hath he given to the children of men." So we can see a division here. We can see a division here. There is a division between what is heaven and there is a division between what is earth. There is a division between what belongs to heaven and there is a division between what belongs to earth. And who earth belongs to and who heaven belongs to. So what is heaven? Who does heaven belong? We know that it belongs to the living God, but what is heaven? What is this realm, quote unquote, above called, quote unquote, heaven? Turning to the book of Psalm 102. Psalm 102. And this is Bible, but it's necessary. It's necessary to understand these terms, just as we've done countless times, to understand the context and the nature of how these words are structured and organized, to understand the meaning that is within them. Psalm 102 in verse 19. Psalm 102 in verse 19 reads, "For he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary. From heaven did the Lord behold the earth." And here's our answer. Read it again. "For he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary. From heaven did the Lord behold the earth." So here we have again the Bible teaching by or through association. Now, if one is looking down from the height of their sanctuary, and then the Bible continues the same stream of thought by saying, "From heaven did the Lord behold the earth," what is called the sanctuary and what is called heaven are synonymous. In the Bible, the word heaven is associated to the living God's sanctuary. The word heaven is associated to the sanctuary or to the temple of the living God. Again, Psalm chapter 11 and verse 4. Psalm chapter 11 and verse 4. Psalm chapter 11 and verse 4. "The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men." Again, another bit of association here. If the Lord is in his holy temple, and then the Bible continues, "The Lord's throne is in heaven," then heaven is synonymous with temple. When we're hearing this word heaven to the Bible, heaven means the living God's sanctuary. Heaven means the living God's temple. So when the individual is saying, "I am from above," he's saying, "I am from heaven." When he's saying, I am from above and I am from heaven, he's actually saying that my thoughts, my mind dwells and rests within the living God's sanctuary. My mind rests within the living God's temple. This individual is from above, is from heaven, and in a real sense and in a real context and in all actuality, it is his mind that dwells within the temple of the living God's sanctuary. Now, why? Why would anyone care to be in heaven? Again, this is not a literal connotation. This individual is not literally in a place. This is not literal. This individual's mind, his mind, is in the living God's temple. This individual's mind is in heaven, which is the living God's temple. This individual's mind is above. This is how he understands what the living God's wisdom is and what that way of life, or what that way of devotional character and conscience and conversation is. His mind is in the place where it ought to be. Plain verse for the answer of why this individual would be in this location. Not physically be, but mentally and philosophically and doctrinally or inwardly be. Still in the book of Psalms, Psalm 119, plain verse. Psalm 119, verse 89. Psalm 119, verse 89. Psalm 119, verse 89 reads, "Forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in heaven." Plain. Plain. So plain and so cool. What is not above, what is not in heaven, what is not in the living God's temple or sanctuary, it does not have the living God's word within it. This individual's mind remained above because that's where the only words of the living God are. And no, he didn't go someplace, location out of himself. No, nothing spurious, nothing mysterious. It says, be renewed in the spirit of your mind. It says that which is born of the spirit is spirit. If we're going to hold John 4:24 true, and I'm always saying this, it seems, but if we're going to hold John 4:24 as being true, that God is a spirit and that which is of the spirit is spirit, then this is where that individual's mind went. If he's going to tell us in John 4:24 that God is a spirit, then this individual must commune not by what is bodily, but by what is mind. And by communing with what is mind to what already is mind, this individual was in a place to be. He was in the spot. And this is here written so that we can know how to get to that spot. And that spot is not or in or under heaven, or within or beneath or within the earth. Quote unquote earth, quote unquote world, same thing. This individual's mind was in the living God's heavenly sanctuary, figurative, but his mind reviewed the scriptures consistently and meditated on them because that's where the words of the living God are. So when he said, "I am from above and you are not," best believe he knew what he was saying, because he knew that they didn't know that he knew that they knew they didn't know what was going on. But he understood everything. He understood everything because he was in the spot to understand what everything was and how everything should be. There is no other location but heaven to where the living God's words are. Now, our faith and the heart of our faith needs to be in heaven, and no, heaven does not take place when you die. This individual saying he was above is saying he was in heaven while his heart beat, while neurotransmitters were functioning up in his head, and while blood was flowing through his veins. Heaven is to be understood now, and it is by when we review these scriptures intimately. And so what is the earth? And what is the mission for the earth? Ecclesiastes 3, verses 10 and 11. Ecclesiastes 3, verses 10 and 11. Ecclesiastes 3, verses 10 and 11 reads, I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. The sons of men, same as we've read this whole time in the Psalms, children of men, same. I've seen the travail which God has given to the sons of men to be exercised in it, the inhabitants of earth, or of quote unquote the world. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he has set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God makes from the beginning to the end. The mission for the quote-unquote world is different than the mission that is up above or in quote-unquote heaven. On the earth, the only concern are the things of the quote-unquote world. And these things are the regurgitations of what is handwritten, ancient and modern, theoretical understanding on what is above. Again, this is theoretical understanding of what is above. Our faith needs to understand the lie that it is being held in and that we are holding it to by allowing it to remain in the quote-unquote world and not letting it be above to where this individual first taught this principle. This individual first taught this principle of being above to influence the meditation of the words within the scriptures, to influence the experience that meditation gives to the conversation, to influence how we relate to the wisdom and counsel within what we receive. What is within the quote-unquote earth, quote-unquote world is a theoretical understanding of what is above. That's why the man said, I'm not of the world. The man had no theory about what was on earth or quote-unquote in the world. The man had fact. Man had straight fact. And our faith needs to have the same fact that this man's faith has and had. Our faith needs to go through that experience of being above and learning what it means to be in heaven.